So with these three things I'm going to talk about today to give you the inspiration and to give you the insight of what you need to do to start shifting this, because it's going to come from you. It's not going to come from outside. It starts with giving yourself permission and having this, awareness of what you're doing that is self-sabotaging you and giving you these thoughts. So starting with the number one thing, to shift this imposter syndrome and feeling like you're not good enough is stop scrolling other health coaches, stop researching other health coaches and other experts that have probably been doing it for 5 to 10 years. And you're just getting started. And so you see their beautiful website, you see their pretty Instagram feed or professional photos, and then you're just after how many hours of looking and researching and scrolling, you sit back and you're exhausted because you just spent hours in the bubble looking, and then you're in a place of you're oh my gosh, how will I ever have a beautiful website? How will I lose this 10 pounds so I feel confident enough to do a photo shoot and blah 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 blah, all those things. Stop putting yourself into the comparisonitis of other coaches and just stop doing that habit, because you do that habit and you're oh, this is proactive, but really it's not. And especially when you think about how the time that you've been wasting doing that, you could have been creating something that's really coming from you and really personal to you, that's going to help you stand out as the unique, awesome, superstar person and coach that you are. So please stop. If you're doing that, hands up, and please stop. I did that, and that's how I know that it is not proactive when you think it's proactive, but it's actually just a procrastination and perfection habit that is serving you by keeping you stuck, so you don't actually do the real work that you need to do to actually get a paying client. So hands up, admit it, shine a light on that, and when you go to do that, catch yourself, stop, please. So the second part of this, of what I wanted to share about the tips to get you out of that imposter syndrome and thinking that you don't know enough, is also, instead of being all about you and being in the ego of oh my gosh, if I say something wrong, if I do something wrong, if I don't do this perfect, then I'm not going to be loved, and then it's just going to end everything, and I'm going to be I'm not going to be able to do that. All of those bullshit stories. Instead of focusing on you, focus on your ideal client. What is he or she struggling with? Think about how they are suffering, and likely it's probably something that you dealt with in the past and you transformed it or made progress on it, and because you had results, whether it's 1 inch of weight loss or a millisecond of more energy, that doesn't even make sense, but you know what I'm saying. Tiny little progress you've learned from either your personal experience or the fact that you have really dedicated and educated yourself around nutrition, around what a healthy lifestyle really is, around spirituality, around psychology, all of these things. So I guarantee you know enough. So instead of thinking so much about you and what could happen or worrying about this, that, and the other, then focus on your ideal client. What is he or she struggling with? What is keeping them up all night? What is so painful that they literally can barely get out of bed? Focus on that, not on you, on your mission of helping your ideal client. That will help you snap out of, I don't know enough. Yes, you do. And so number 3 is going to go into my past story of me, thinking that I didn't know enough, but then finally having the realization that, and owning and giving myself permission to know that I know enough. And if I didn't in a client session, I would just honestly tell them, I'm going to go research that or blah, 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 and get back to you with the answer. So with the third part of this inspirational tip to help you feel like you are good enough, because you're not an imposter, is with my first client. And so I will name her, because I don't want to share her actual name. So Jane Back Pain is what I'm going to call her. So this was my very, very first paying client. And I was working with women who were suffering from autoimmune, and the main symptoms they were having is anxiety and body pain. So she came to me. I don't remember her exact age. Maybe she was like 23 or 25. But this girl had gone through some major life trauma and had some serious diagnoses of like lupus, and she had already had a knee replacement. She had already had a hip replacement and a kidney transplant at this age. So serious things. So of course with me, her being my first paying client, I was like, oh man, like I don't know, like she's on these medications, she's like had some serious stuff, like I don't know if I'm gonna know enough, I don't know if I'm gonna help her. She probably already knows all of these things that I know, like what am I really gonna help her with? Okay, so she shows up. She was actually a one-on-one client that came to me in person in New York City. And so she showed up and we just like sit down and we go into like the follow-up questions from the intake forms, and I'm just kind of digging into that to really like understand what's going on, just starting at a daily basis, so I really get the truth of what she's eating, what she's doing, what her life is like. That's it. And it blew my mind pretty quickly and helped me get out of my ego mind of, oh my gosh, all these things. She was eating like 80% of her meals were spaghetti for lunch and dinner, leftover. She would make it so many times, eat it, spaghetti. That was her thing. She loved spaghetti. It was easy. It was cheap. It was delicious. And then for breakfast, she would be having cereal. That's it. Like tomato sauce was her only vegetable. Okay, so you can see, if you're in the bubble of like the health coach community and everybody knows everything and blah, 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 there are still so many people that don't know how important vegetables really are, or they might be counting calories or thinking that just like whole wheat pasta is healthy, but they might have a gluten intolerance. She didn't know about gluten. She didn't know how important veggies are. She was barely drinking any water. And the question of what's going on in her life after we covered what are you eating on a daily basis? Her stress level was so bad. And she eating was her tactic for coping with stress. So I had her lay down on the yoga mat, because I was also incorporating yoga with my nutrition practice. And I didn't have her do any movements, nothing fancy. I just had her lay on the yoga mat, breathe into her belly, focus on breathing into her belly. We did this for maybe 3 minutes. And when we started, she was at a pain scale of about, I think it was 6, if I remember right. But she had been dealing with this pain in her back all the time. And from literally breathing into her belly and just slowing down to create that time and space for her to get into her body and out of the stress of everything going on with life, I asked her when we got done what her pain scale was. She had no pain. Nothing. With breathing. Okay? So I'm sharing this to help you realize that why you think, like, oh my gosh, well, people need to do labs. Oh my gosh, people need to have all these supplements. Oh my gosh, like, I need to, like, make all the recipes and meal plans and create all these things, when really, sometimes the people just need the basics, and they just need you to ask them questions. They just need you to create that time for them to make time for themselves. So, like, health coaching is not complicated. Some cases, of course, can be. For the most part, I found, even with this most, like, serious case, she just needed to breathe. So, are you guys having any light bulb moments? Are you guys like, oh my gosh, I've been in this bubble of, like, health coach community thinking that everyone knows everything about everything, so I need to be like a food scientist or chemist to be able to help clients get results? Are you understanding how this can be simple? And if this isn't enough, then go to Walmart, walk around, and see people, like, you can see they are suffering, and that you will know enough to help them.